What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Films with Elroy. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and that notification button for more updates. I also do short films, independent short films, so if you like that sort of stuff, please check out my channel. Like, leave a thumbs up, leave comments, keep it professional on any of my videos, whether it's my short films or my movie reviews. Let's have a conversation and I appreciate it. So those who have been joining me, thank you so much for always coming back and watching my stuff. Let's get straight to it. This is Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, spoiler review. So for Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, I thought it was beautiful. The animation was great. There was a lot of shots or scenes that looked real, especially in the beginning when the mountains are shown. I couldn't tell if it was actually the animation drawing itself or however they did it digitally, or if it was actual like footage from the mountains. But it was amazing because there was a lot of that throughout the film where it seemed like it was animation, but this isn't animation, it looks real. So I thought that was cool. I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, so I went in not expecting much because, you know, the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King is great. I've read the books, I've seen the movies, and then the Hobbit films, the trilogy, which I enjoyed a lot. I've read the book, which is one book, and I was so into it. I've read the Silmarillion, which is a tough read, but I read that. I got that insight into the beginning of the world that was created of Middle Earth and how that came about, and the beings and all these races and names. And, you know, I read the book of the Children of Hurin, which was a chapter in the Silmarillion, actually. But, you know, I'm big into Lord of the Rings, so the more Lord of the Rings content I can get, I want to see it. So the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim, was a great add-on for me into this world. I believe it's set in the film's universe. But if I had to be honest, the story really didn't catch my attention. I was more drawn into the animation and just seeing this prequel world and how, which I got to find out watching the film, how Helm's Deep got the name, because originally in Two Towers, where they, you know, the Rohirrims, or people from Rohan and the king, and Aragorn and them, you know, they go into running into Helm's Deep so that they can't get breached, the wall won't get breached from the orcs, which if you saw the Two Towers, you noticed that they had a bomb and they were able to place it in a section at Helm's Deep, which blew up the wall. So it's pretty much focused on Rohan and the king and the people. You know, they have to run back to this place, which is, I forget the actual name of what it was before it was Helm's Deep. And they go back there in Helm's Deep and they're held off there, not from orcs, but from the humans that apparently the king had killed the son from one of the kings of that land. So the king of that land, I forget where it was coming from, he wanted his son to marry the king of Rohan's daughter, Hera, who's the main character of the film, and she just doesn't want to get married. And, you know, the king of Rohan, he's very, you know, strong, and, you know, he has just this presence about him, and, you know, there was no eye to eye there. And then the king from the other land was just very aggressive, and he wanted to pick a fight and, you know, settle it like man. And the king of Rohan, you know, they was like, all right, we'll step outside and fight, and just one punch killed the other king of that specific land. And the son, he just had so much animosity, and that's pretty much the villain of the film. He comes back, you know, with a new group of people, and they come up with these Oliphants that make a show in this film. If you've seen the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Return of the King, you're aware of the Oliphants, the big like elephant creatures. And apparently there was a disease, I believe, in one of the Oliphants. And the idea of this ghost creature killing people, which kind of threw me off, because towards the ending of the film, the king of Rohan, who's dying or apparently dead, he comes back and he's able to like be in this cold. There's a part in the film where while they're running for Helm's Deep, this cold is coming in, so they're trapped from this group coming to attack them, and then in the cold. And basically, the king, he got hit by the arrows as the war in Rohan was happening, and he lost the one son, and then eventually he loses the other son when they get to Helm's Deep. But the other son had got caught because his horse was tired, and he just got off his horse and he accepted his fate. They captured him and brought him to Helm's Deep for the king to witness, and, you know, Hera and them. So, you know, just that, pretty much that story of, you know, Hera, this shield maiden of Rohan, if you will, the princess, who the king doesn't really, he loves her, but I guess he doesn't value her in terms of like a fighter, or see her as a fighter, and she's just about adventure and, you know, being able to fight and whatnot, you know, have that proof, show herself of what she can do. So that's pretty much, I guess you can say, the way the Shield Maidens were, I believe, already they existed, but you would say she became a Shield Maiden of Rohan. So it's, just focused on that, the aspect of revenge and being able to show your worth as being a woman, and how you are as a person in this world as of kings and princes and whatnot. So she's basically, she just has that side of her that where you just focus on, her, where she's at in this world. Because, the king had 2 sons and a daughter, and she wasn't regarded as someone to take the throne. Or towards the ending, I think the nephew takes the throne because the king eventually dies. He has this big battle in the end, and he just freezes in Helm's Deep. So apparently he wasn't dead. He just, I don't know what's going on. I know Lord of the Rings, that world is, there's a lot of mystical stuff and magic. So he just ended up freezing in the battle. And I know at one point, I think the cousin takes over Rohan, and I believe he tells her she should have been in line to rule, but she just doesn't want that. That's not where she is at, I guess you can say, in the whole idea of the film. But she's a strong woman, and it was interesting. I don't know if she might have been an actual character in the actual stories of Middle Earth, or they just made her for the film. But either way, whether they make a new character for the movies or not, it doesn't bother me. It's whatever. A lot of people would call it, they just have to have a woman as part of this film. It's the thing now, women power and strength. And I don't care about that stuff. If it's forced, it's corny to me, but I don't see it here for that. There's a lot of strong women in the Lord of the Rings franchise. You got Eowyn, you got Arwen, so it's like this character being a focus, Hera, whether she's part of the world or not in the books, I don't care. I thought it was cool. But other than that, the story itself, it's not as powerful as the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit series, and where it goes. It's just a little section of Middle Earth that I'm okay to see because I love Lord of the Rings. So it just wasn't like a big event for me. I think the next big event, if they're going to do it, would be the Silmarillion, but that would probably be like 4 or 5 movies because it's a big read. It's like I want to say a Bible, but in that world, it's like you got the beginning and then the lead up to Sauron, because he wasn't the main villain. It was Morgoth who was the main villain, and then Sauron was his lieutenant. Eventually takes over, and that's when the Lord of the Rings happens and stuff. But I know the Hunt for Gollum, I think, is another film that they're going to do in live action, based off of Gandalf trying to look for Gollum, and I believe Aragorn. So I'm not sure how true that is, but that's been the talk of as far as live action films go. And I'm okay with that. If it's another prequel, you really can't do a sequel to Lord of the Rings because it kind of finishes itself and where it goes. But I am all for prequels. You can do so much with prequels in the Middle Earth, so I'm excited for that. Lord of the Rings, World of Rohirrim, it was another great add-on, or another good add-on. Not great because again, I wasn't so engulfed in it. If I had to give it out of 10 stars, I'd say a 6.5 out of 10. I think for me personally, it wasn't anything that I would want to watch again. I'll add it to my collection if I'm collecting, DVDs, Blu-rays, or whatnot. But I wasn't just I was more into the animation and the shots and the scenes, but I didn't really care for the story. I kind of felt, I've seen the Rohan and Rohirrim a lot in the Two Towers, so it's like here we go back again with Rohan and the Rohirrim, and them having to flee to Helm's Deep, which wasn't Helm's Deep at the time, but that's what it was, the same thing. So it felt like a little rehash. But again, it was just a build-up of to how that land was going through, its thing, and how Helm's Deep became Helm's Deep in name. I forget the name of the king. I think he might have been Helm Hammerhand or something. I think Helm was his name. But yeah, I get a 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it, but not as much to be like I want to see it again. But again, if you're a Lord of the Rings fans, I do recommend it. I did get the popcorn bucket, which I thought was great, which is the hammer. This is the head right here, and then inside, I didn't open it yet, is the pieces for the handle that you put together and you can attach. And it's a popcorn bucket hammer. I don't want to open it maybe I will mess around with it, but this is the second popcorn bucket that I actually own. I have the Ghostbusters trap from Ghostbusters Afterlife. I had to get it. Ghostbusters is my favorite film, or one of my favorite. It would be number 2 favorite film. I think The Lord of the Rings is my first. It used to be Ghostbusters, but I would say the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I consider it as one because it's one book technically. So I consider the Lord of the Rings trilogy perhaps my favorite of all time film. The Ghostbusters are close, close first, but it's number 2. And I thought this was a great popcorn bucket. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, The Wars of Rohirrim. If you're into Lord of the Rings, add it to your watch. Get involved in this newness of Middle Earth and what goes on with the part of Rohan and the Rohirrim and the characters of that world. But don't go in expecting the greatness that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy films or much of the adventure of the Hobbit films. But other than that, that's my Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim film spoiler review. Thank you for watching. Please hit that subscribe button and notification button. And until next time, later.